For 22 years, she worked at the same flower shop. Margaret Thompson was the neighborhood's kindest florist. She never complained, always spoke to everyone with a smile. Until that day when a customer noticed the burn scars on Margaret's hands. These burns, they could only be on the hands of someone who had been exposed to extreme heat. Welcome to Hidden Hero Stories. Before we begin this incredible discovery story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like these hidden heroes need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. In Boston's Riverside neighborhood, on the corner of Main Street, there was a small flower shop. The pink sign reading Margaret's Garden had faded a bit with the weight of years, but inside was always filled with vibrant flowers. Inside worked Margaret Thompson, 67 years old, gray-haired, with a gentle smile. Margaret was a beloved woman in the neighborhood. Every morning she opened her shop at 7, closed it at 6 in the evening. She had intimate conversations with her customers, gave advice about flower care. She was never hurried, never impatient. "You have to be gentle like flowers," she always said. Her customers had known her for 22 years. Margaret had been working with the same love and care since she took over the shop. Weddings, funerals, celebrations. The flowers for every important moment came from Margaret's hands. But there was something about Margaret that no one knew. The marks on her hands. Margaret's hands didn't look like those of a 67-year-old woman. They were strong, durable, but had small burn scars everywhere. Between her fingers, on her wrists, on her palms. Old, healed, but permanent marks. When customers noticed these marks, Margaret usually said with a smile, "Florist hands, thorn marks." No one questioned it. Margaret's gentle character didn't invite such questions. That Tuesday morning, everything started differently than usual. The weather was warm. Margaret's shop was shining with morning sunlight. Her first customer, elderly Mrs. Davis, arrived while Margaret was preparing plant waters. "Good morning, Margaret," said Mrs. Davis. "This place looks very beautiful today." "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. How can I help you?" "I want a small bouquet for my granddaughter. We're celebrating her birthday." Margaret smiled. "How old is she turning?" 7 years old. She loves pink flowers very much." Margaret began preparing a small bouquet of pink roses and daisies. Mrs. Davis, while watching Margaret work, noticed something. On Margaret's left hand, between her thumb and index finger, there was a deep mark. It looked like a burn scar, but it was very large and permanent. "Margaret," said Mrs. Davis curiously, "how did you get this mark on your hand?" Margaret's hand stopped for a moment. Then she continued arranging the flowers. "Oh, an old accident," she said briefly. "What kind of accident?" Margaret hesitated. "Kitchen accident, long ago." But Mrs. Davis had 40 years of nursing experience. This wasn't a kitchen accident mark. This was a serious burn scar. And it wasn't just one. There were several more on Margaret's hands. "Margaret, these marks, they look very serious." Margaret finished the bouquet and handed it to Mrs. Davis. $12, please." Mrs. Davis gave the money, but her curiosity hadn't passed. "Margaret, did you do other work before?" "Yes," said Margaret quietly, "but now I'm a florist." Mrs. Davis understood that Margaret didn't want to talk more. She took the bouquet and left. But she had questions in her mind. In the afternoon, a young customer came. Lisa Chen, 28 years old, had recently moved to the neighborhood. She was looking for flowers for her apartment. "Hello," said Lisa. "I'm looking for a houseplant, something easy to care for." Margaret smiled. "I have perfect options for apartment living. This pothos plant is very durable." Lisa, while examining the plant, noticed Margaret's hands. Especially the large mark on her right hand caught her attention. "How did you get this mark?" asked Lisa directly. Margaret was surprised. "Which mark?" "The one on your hand. It looks like a very large burn scar." Margaret quickly turned her hand away. "An old accident." "What kind of accident?" Margaret hesitated. Lisa was waiting with curious eyes. "Please don't worry about it," said Margaret. "It's from long ago." But Lisa wasn't the type to give up. "Margaret, I'm a medical student. I recognize these types of burn scars. This happens when exposed to very high temperatures." Margaret's face tensed. "Lisa, please." "Were you a firefighter?" Margaret froze. She never expected that question. "Why would you think that?" Because these types of burn scars are usually seen in firefighters. Even protective gloves sometimes can't protect from extreme heat. Margaret looked at Lisa for a long time. For the first time in 22 years, someone had guessed the truth. Used to be, she said quietly. Long ago. Lisa's eyes sparkled. Really? How long did you work? 25 years. 25 years? Wow, why did you quit? Margaret took a deep breath. It was time to tell the story she hadn't told anyone for 22 years. In 1998, there was a big fire in an apartment complex. 15 families lived there. Lisa listened carefully. The fire spread very quickly. The building was in danger of collapse, but there were still people on the third floor. Margaret's voice began to tremble. My partner William and I went up for a final check. We heard a child's voice from the second floor. What happened? There was an 8-year-old boy named Tommy. He had hidden behind a closet out of fear. His family had evacuated without finding him. Margaret looked at the marks on her hands. To save Tommy, I had to open the burning metal door with my bare hands. My gloves had started to melt. Lisa's breath stopped. The door was very hot, but I couldn't leave Tommy there. I opened the door, took the child, got him out. What happened then? Tommy was saved, but my hands were very badly burned. I stayed in the hospital for 3 months. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. After I recovered, I realized I could no longer work at fire scenes. I had trauma. I was afraid of seeing fire. Is that why you became a florist? Margaret nodded. Flowers bring beauty to the world. Fire brings destruction. I wanted to create beauty now. Lisa was moved listening to Margaret's story. Margaret, you're a hero. Margaret shook her head. No, Lisa, I just did my job. No, you did far beyond your job. You saved Tommy's life. But I paid the price for it. Lisa looked at Margaret's hands. These marks were the marks of heroism. Margaret, have you ever seen Tommy? After? Margaret smiled. Yes, he even came here last year. Really? Yes. Tommy is 31 years old now. He became an engineer. He's married, has children. Did he recognize you? Yes, he recognized me. He thanked me, and he said, Aunt Margaret, I owe my life to you. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. That's so beautiful. I prepared the flowers for Tommy's wedding. I was very happy that day. Does anyone else know that you were a firefighter? You're the first person. After 22 years. Lisa appreciated Margaret's courage. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because it's in the past. I'm Margaret the florist now, not Margaret the firefighter. But this makes you more special, Margaret thought. Maybe, but I just want a peaceful life. Lisa bought her plant and left, but Margaret's story wouldn't leave her mind. The next day, Lisa decided to do research. She searched Margaret Thompson firefighter Boston 1998 on the internet, and she found it. Margaret's story was in old newspaper reports. Under the headline, Female Firefighter Risks Life to Save Child, was Margaret's photo. Young Margaret, in firefighter uniform, was smiling in a hospital bed. Her hands were bandaged. What was written in the news shocked Lisa. Margaret hadn't just saved Tommy. She had saved a total of 4 people that day. Tommy was the last one. Firefighter Margaret Thompson saved 47 people's lives in her 12-year career. Last night, she risked her own life to save 4 more people. When Lisa learned Margaret's true heroism, she was amazed. This woman wasn't just a firefighter. This woman was a legend. The next day, Lisa visited the shop. Margaret, I researched you. Margaret was surprised. What did you research? The 1998 fire and your career. Margaret's face went pale. 47 people, Margaret. You saved 47 people's lives. Margaret remained silent. This is an incredible number, and no one knows. Because I don't want them to know. But why? This is something to be proud of. Margaret walked among the flowers. Lisa, my firefighting past is in the past. Now I'm a florist. But you're a hero. Lisa, real heroes live quietly. They don't boast. Lisa appreciated Margaret's humility. Margaret, I'm going to ask you something. Have you ever regretted it? Regretted what? Leaving your career, Margaret thought. Because I'm still helping people. How? With flowers. Flowers make people happy. They make them forget their pain. That's also a kind of rescue. Lisa understood Margaret's perspective. Margaret, I have a proposal for you. What proposal? I want to write your story for the neighborhood newspaper. Margaret shook her head. No, Lisa, thank you, but no. Why? Because I don't want to attract attention. I'm just a woman who sells flowers. But people should know who you really are. Why? Because it's inspiring. A 67-year-old woman who saved 47 lives. This gives people courage. Margaret hesitated. Will you think about it? I'll think about it. Days passed. Margaret thought about Lisa's proposal. Maybe she really could give people hope. A week later, Lisa visited the shop. Margaret, what's your decision? Margaret smiled. You can write it, but with one condition. What condition? Write the story through Margaret the florist, not through Margaret the firefighter. What do you mean? Write about who I am now. Let my past be just a part. Lisa understood. Okay, like the secret past of Margaret, our neighborhood florist. Exactly like that. Lisa wrote the article. When it was published in the neighborhood newspaper, it caused a big response. People started coming to Margaret's shop, not just to buy flowers, but to thank her. Mrs. Margaret, you're our hero, said elderly Mr. Wilson. You're the pride of our neighborhood, said Mrs. Garcia. Margaret was a bit uncomfortable with all this attention, but finally she understood that people respected her. A month later, a special customer came, 31-year-old Tommy Rodriguez. Aunt Margaret, said Tommy, hugging her. Tommy, it's so good to see you again. I read the article in the newspaper. I was so proud. Why? Because now everyone knows that the woman who saved me is not only a great firefighter, but also a great person. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Tommy, you're my greatest pride. You're my greatest hero. That day, Tommy visited the shop with his family, his wife Anna and 6-year-old daughter Emma. Emma, said Tommy, this is Aunt Margaret, the woman who saved me. Emma looked at Margaret. Are you a real hero? Margaret crouched down to Emma's level. No, sweetheart, I'm just a florist. But you saved my daddy. Yes, I saved him. Then you're a hero. Margaret smiled. Maybe I am. Tommy gave Margaret a gift, a small framed photo, a picture of Tommy's family taken together with Margaret. This is very precious to me, said Margaret, for us too. Because without you, this family wouldn't exist. That evening, as Margaret was closing the shop, she looked at the photo. Tommy's family was looking at her and smiling. After 22 years, Margaret had finally made peace with her past. She was no longer just Margaret the firefighter, nor just Margaret the florist. She was both. And that made her perfect. Today, Margaret still works at the same flower shop, but now her customers look at her not just as a florist, but as a hero. And Margaret knows that every time she sells a flower, she's still saving lives. Because flowers heal people's souls. Margaret Thompson, 25 years firefighter, 22 years florist, but always, forever, a hero. As Hidden Hero Stories, we ask you, have you ever met someone like Margaret? Someone with heroism stories in their past but who seems ordinary now? Share their stories in the comments. Because real heroes sometimes hide in the most unexpected places. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe, share. Because there's a Margaret in every neighborhood we live in. Maybe we know them but don't know their real stories. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, pay a little more attention to the ordinary people around you. They might be secret heroes.